how you took things, then you're not really growing or changing. And who wants to stay exactly the same?
Oh, I
I know
do.
I
Wait,
don't.
wait,
Like,
wait,
I
wait,
know
wait,
I
wait, wait.
don't.
What is all this about the what you said? What now? You said it's about growing and becoming a better person?
Yes.
What's up, Kelly of Difficult Podcasters? What's up?
How are you?
Ronnie of
How's it going?
Ronnie of
Difficult podcasters.
Yes, you're supposed to say it like I did. Hi, Kelly of Difficult Podcasters,
Oh,
and you're supposed to say hi
sorry.
back, Ronnie of Difficult Podcasters. Oh God, the name of the show doesn't even sound good anymore. Ugh.
I ruin everything. Sorry.
Oh well, I've been right there with you on many of ruining of things. But I do think we're going to talk about like friendships in some way, shape, or form. Because they are really essentially hard to find,
Yeah.
and they really aren't hard to find generally. But what is that like in terms of sustaining friendships for a really long time? I mean, that's kind of interesting. We have a good dynamic, but it's not every day that happens, 2003,
Right. Yeah.
and that's a lot of years ago.
It is a lot of years ago. Wow. It's like 21 years ago.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I
Yeah,
can't that's a whole lifetime ago.
yeah, yeah. I mean, at the same time, it wasn't as if every year was like, hey, you know, I've got all these achievements or frustrations. Let me go bug Kelly. No, but it is still a really cool thing to see so much of somebody and their journey, like it's good on both sides. Like friendships are very 50-50. Well, not always.
But it begs the question, like, how many of your friends are your everyday friends,
Hmm.
your talk about work achievement friends, or you know what I mean? Like, there, I feel like as you get older and the longer that you have friendships, everyone kind of plays a different role in your life, but what you go to them for, how they support you. And not everyone is everything.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be true in your friendships?
mm, yeah, well, that's good though. That means there's a little bit of you can
Yeah.
get different things and give too from different people. Yeah, I think that's cool for sure. For us, I think it is kind of lucky that we do kind of fit a lot of that. I feel like
Yeah.
you are a warm but also sarcastic bitch if necessary.
For
Like it's
sure.
you have a lot, but you don't really. You're right. You don't really have that with everybody.
No, I know. For example, I have a friend that I've had for a long time that we check on each other, hang out, all that, but she's not my emotional friend. I don't go to her with like emotional stuff. She's just
Mhm.
not that kind of person. We just don't really have that kind of friendship. I don't get into deep stuff with her because that's just never been our friendship. But then I have other people that's what I go to them for, is for those kind of like deeper, more t- touchy feely
Mhm.
kind of conversations. But that's just not the type of friendship that she and I have, and it's nothing bad or wrong or anything like that. It's just not the friend, the way that
Yeah.
the way our friendship has been. So it's just kind of a little bit of those things. I have another friend that we kind of talk about more relationship stuff every time we talk. Like, he tells me about his stuff, I get a
Mhm.
male perspective on things. He tells me, I tell him about my stuff, and we kind of compare notes and try to figure out, kind of what's going on from a
Ooh,
different
you should write a
like
book.
male female
You should
perspective,
write a
which becomes
book over there.
which
Yeah.
it becomes really interesting hearing things
Mhm.
from like his point of view if I give him scenarios and stuff. And
Yeah.
I like that in all of my friendships everybody's pretty honest,
Yeah.
so I don't feel like they try to spare my feelings,
Yeah.
but in a good way. Because
Yeah.
you need that kind of honesty, and you really, if I ask you a question, I really want to know what you think about it. I don't want you just to blow smoke.
Well, it is the hardest thing in terms of like if you connect with somebody really well, you can go there. Hey Kelly, you disappointed me because of this, or the,
Yeah.
the flip side too. But I guess I'm gonna ask a couple questions, so you're just gonna have so many places to go.
All right.
I wanna know if you ever feel like anyone sort of left you in the dust or made you mad in terms of the friendship. It wasn't 50-50. We talked about 50-50.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking about something with me, and, have you ever had a moment where you were really quick with somebody and we're like, "Oh, well, then fine." And you still feel that because you stand on everything you stated, but
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh, in the grand scheme of things, that was a good like a good friend," or was it, does that make sense? Do you get where I'm going
Like,
with
if do
that?
I still feel the same way, or did I
W
realize it's not that big of a deal? That kind of a thing?
I don't wanna say second guessing, but yeah, is there a moment of
But
second
more like
guessing?
kinda getting over whatever that was and being
Yeah,
able to move on from it.
yeah.
Hmm,
Because I
that's
had one.
interesting. Oh, really?
I had one, and it only came up in my mind right now, of us talking about these kinds of things, because I know you got all the stories,
Oh
but
god, so
and we'll
funny.
get to that. I'm gonna say there is one particular friend who, whatever had happened was very like, well, you know what, fine, or it was very like,
Mhm.
lose my number kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But then it was in the grand scheme of things, as I'm thinking now, I'm like, that person was actually more cool than I needed to be so rigid at that time. I know it was a rigid time, and I would have enjoyed that friend to be more hip to like, come on, relax, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know, a- after you get over 35 and 40, if finding those friends that like just maybe have one little thing that you don't like about them, I would prefer to have that friend still, but I really don't. It's not bad per se, but I'm kind of like, as we're
Yeah.
talking about this complexities of friendships, I'm like, he was a cool dude. And it didn't mean that like where it started in our early
Mhm.
30s, it had changed, but me being the grump that I am, I'm like, well, fine then, or shut up, or whatever
Right.
had happened. And I'm just like thinking right now as I'm talking to you, I'm like, grand scheme of things, it was not that big of a deal. And I actually probably would rather still have the friendship, even if it meant going from like somebody you talk to every day to like once
Mhm.
every 3 weeks. And I'm like, did I make an error? I don't make very many. So I'm a little like, whoa.
Well, and sometimes you do, and I think that it also shows the growth, because if you can't go back and revisit situations in your life and maybe how you reacted to things or how you took things, then you're not really growing or changing. And who wants to stay exactly the same?
Oh,
I
I
know
do.
I
Wait,
don't.
wait,
Like,
wait,
I
wait,
know
wait,
I
wait,
don't.
wait. What is all this about the what you said? What now? You said it's about growing and becoming a better person?
Yes.
But wait, what if what if, well, I guess I would be very much on both sides of the fence on this, where
Mhm.
I'm saying I didn't say regret
Well,
because
no, and I don't think that's not what I mean either. Just because you grow to look at a situation and understand it differently doesn't mean that there is regret or you did anything wrong or anything like
mm,
that. It just means that you're understanding from a different perspective because you've matured a little, grown a little, or are able to step outside of it and look at it in a different way, which I've done a lot of. And sometimes I
mm.
look back at certain situations and I'm like, ooh, about like my behavior
Okay,
and
I
feel
have
like
an
I
ex
wish I could go back and kind of adjust myself a little bit.
I don't like talking to you because you make me feel like, yes, I do need to be like, it was an issue I could work on. Okay, so I won't get into like if I feel like it's an issue I could work on or not, but yes, growth is a thing. We always want to get better. And I'm not regretting in terms of like, do I miss that friendship? Nah, I mean, it's fun. Like, it would be cool, but like also it's okay. Ran its
Yeah.
course. But I think I might have an excuse,
Okay.
but it's in support.
Hmm.
Um, First and foremost, and I'm really excited to hear your stories as well, because I'm pretty sure there's been some stuff. But okay, here is an excuse that's gonna make me sound very unsupportive.
Okay.
This particular friend I'm talking about, we were good friends in the early 30s, which was very at the bar, at the bar, at the bar, but
Okay.
became a real friend for sure.
Hmm.
I didn't actually ever know. It's going to sound like I'm not supportive of this, but and I am. I never knew. I thought we all just like had a fun time at the bar in our early 30s.
Okay.
Turns out it was more for him. And so he had to go get sober. So I'm not saying the
Oh,
sober part is
is the
what caused the problem, but I'm wondering if that no, because I love the growth, like you said, like people to grow in
yeah,
different ways. But I wonder, this is just so fascinating. I never thought about this. If we still were, let's go meet at the bar, buddy, because we were still good friends regardless. It had nothing to
yeah.
do with like he's sober and now the friendship is not as much. But I'm wondering if that exterior level friendship of being at the bar is now eliminated. It took so little for me to be like, screw you, and, and back and forth too. It wasn't just me, right? Isn't that? I didn't expect to tell all this, Kelly, to you because I didn't really even get it. Oh, I
Well,
should call him. Let's call him right
it's
now. Right, let me.
right. Do it right now. But it's one of those things that your friends fall into those different. It's you have your friends you go out with, you
Mhm.
have your friends you talk on the phone with, you have your friends you work with, and maybe that was a friend you went to the bar with, and when that was taken out of the equation, then the friendship kind of fell out because that's what y'all did together.
Mm.
So maybe that's just and maybe it was nothing, intentional, nothing mean spirited, and it just kind of fizzled
I found
because you
another
didn't
excuse.
do that. What? Why you gotta have all these excuses? So what? You were like, F them, I'm done.
Well, no, I was up until today, right this second, actually. And I know your stories are more interesting than mine, so
No,
we'll get to
no,
them.
I want to
But
know.
I'm just wondering, what the heck am I wondering? I'm
Mm,
wondering. Okay, so I was wondering that we're not bar buddies anymore. We can't just go to the bar. Can't go to that's not like the basis of the friendship. As I said, much more of an actual friend. But it does make you wonder if it took one little thing for it not to um have the bar to maybe go back to. Like you, in other words, if we were still in that space of like, let's go to the bar, maybe we had a little disagreement. We end up at the bar, the night's like totally like washed over.
oh, right.
Isn't
Because
that funny?
yes,
Now,
yeah.
here's the other thing. Not an excuse, but yes, an excuse. I also think that we were friends in our early 30s at the bar. So you had been at stages where you saw like you had to be there for each other because sloppy times, you're there for each
Right.
other. So 6 7 8 years later, whatever this time was, all of a sudden we're both so evolved and grown up that I think we probably, and I'll say both parties, kind of were able to throw it in each other's face like, I was there for you when blank, and I was there for you. And I think
Hmm.
that's what happened. I'm not saying I missed the friend, but I'm thinking it was a lot of like, oh, well, don't you remember at 32 when you were, like it was that.
Right,
So isn't
right.
that funny? Here we grew from being just
Hmm.
bar buddies, just drinking at the bar, to like
Hmm.
actual friends. And I think he was an outstanding person. Like we were really close. But it's the how do you make friends in different, like it's not the same anymore. How does that work?
Right. How do you adjust your friendship? That is interesting. It's not easy to do.
I'm not saying a
It's
word anymore.
like it isn't. It's not an easy thing to do. And I feel like there are varying levels of that sort of thing when it comes to someone not doing what everyone else is doing and not meaning that it should necessarily change. I mean, there's a lot of ways to kind of get around it, but it also depends on that person's new boundaries, right? Because if they're not comfortable going to a bar, then you have to find another
Mm,
common thing that you guys all want to do together, which isn't always easy depending upon schedules and timing and like all of that. Maybe you don't have time to do more interactive things and then it just kind of falls by the wayside. So I feel like with friendships, especially as you get older, you really have to make an effort or they just go away.
oh, don't
And
no.
I really
You do
do.
what? You have to do
It's
what?
it's like a job now to
So
have friends because if you're not making an effort, if you're not picking up the phone, if you're not hanging out, if you're not
mm,
actually getting out, like leaving your house to go and do stuff, people are gonna stop inviting you. Like they stopped inviting me because I don't go anywhere. So
uh,
then you lose all your friends
mhm,
because you don't do anything else. And I am always so guilty of that. That now I have to make a very conscious effort that I can't be too tired. I can't be too
yeah,
this because if I want to maintain those friendships, it's a two-way street, right? Like you
yeah,
can't just think about yourself and it gets harder as you get
yeah.
older. Just does, which I don't like it. I don't like getting older. Just don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is easy to really get along with so many people at a certain stage and more fun
Yeah.
times. And that's what was so complex about the story I said is that, like, it really, the initial, like, him choosing to not participate in, like, going to the bar, that
Yeah.
really wasn't the hindrance at all for many years. It was
Mhm.
just more, I guess my question is that without being able to turn to that during the tough times, why were we so easily able to just be like, well, you go your
Yeah.
direction, I'll go mine. But in reality, now that I'm hearing what you're saying, it really wasn't that. It was that it just takes a little bit more work.
Yeah.
We, in fact, not only would go to the local bar all the time, we also worked together back in the day as well. So you take
Mhm.
that has changed, this has changed, we've all changed. How do you expect to like really like connect? Okay,
Yeah.
you got to have a couple juicy stories, and I'm gonna say I think it's because you are, at least when I first met you, straight from Texas into Los Angeles. Like I don't know what it is about your tenacity, but you always show up so big. And I do know that that's a work and career thing. You're like, you really go for it. And I think with your friends, you also gave a lot.
Mhm.
Kelly, do you feel like people would have you give so much, but you weren't necessarily getting a lot in return? Do you have experiences like that?
I do actually. And in that spirit, I have an interesting story to tell and a very unlikely friend, like not even really friend, but a very unlikely contact that did me such a kindness in ways he'll never even know.
Mm.
And I have to give a shout out. And I've been wanting to tell this story for a while and trying like figuring out when a good time to tell it. So you just gave me. So I'm gonna name drop. Sorry, but I made an unlikely, friendship with Randy Jackson
Mhm.
many years ago. And he's like such a cool, down to earth
Mhm.
person. And he did me a solid twice, and he has no idea how he helped this young, up and coming publicist look super cool to a lot of people that were
Mm.
trying to kind of put me down.
So wait,
And
time wise,
mhm,
you're new at working in publicity,
mhm.
and at that time, him coming from being in the music industry, but also American Idol, like he
Yeah, it
has
was
he has
he
a
was
he has a lot
huge.
of credibility,
Yes.
and so you linked up with him, and he really was that
Mhm.
became a friend in that way. Wow.
Yeah, so it's I mean, he didn't even really like do so let me tell you so story. Let me tell you the story. So I used to take my friends, I would invite my friends to any and every event that I could when I had an opportunity to. I was never one to be like, "Oh no, these are my contacts. I'm not going to share."
Mm.
I just was never that person. And in the industry, a lot of people are like that because your contacts are your livelihood, they're your money. That's
Yeah.
how you kind of move on and up. And a
I
lot of
think there's
people,
I think there's a competitiveness
yeah,
with sharing in general. Like,
there is.
you and I, we share so much because like we count on each other in so many ways,
Mhm.
but like I think it's that is it at the core. It's like, okay, we're cool, but I don't want to share too much. So you're thinking like
Yeah.
contacts, you felt like I'm gonna give the world. These are my friends.
Yeah.
Didn't come back to you though.
No. And I didn't really care because I felt confident enough and secure enough in my relationships. I didn't feel like you could steal anything.
Hmm.
So I was like, whatever, come hang out, the more the merrier. That was
Hmm.
always my idea. So I took my friends to this big lavish party to meet all these people, do all these things, whatever. Well, then a friend of mine started working on a show, and I had a client or something that could have really benefited from, maybe being in the audience and getting on a
Hmm.
camera or like something. But she would invite all of our friends to go to the show except for me.
Hmm.
She never would invite me. She wouldn't invite me to any of her work stuff like ever.
Hmm.
And it's I didn't even notice it at first until we were all somewhere, and one of her I just happened to run into them somewhere, and one of her was like, "Oh, you should come and hang out with us." And she was just like didn't clearly did not want me mixing with her work friends for whatever reason. I will never know. I don't know.
Hmm.
So fast forward to I meet Randy Jackson through this work thing. We ended up doing a work thing together, and we just became really friendly. He just was super cool, and we talked about ways of working together with the people I was working for and doing other fun things. Well, he happened to be a producer on that show that she worked on, so
Mhm.
he invited me to the show with my clients and stuff, and we had camera seats, and it was a whole thing.
Mhm.
And I didn't tell her I was coming to her show, knowing she works on that show. She happened to see my name on the guest list
Mhm.
and like texted me and was like, "Oh, are you coming to the show?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, Randy invited me." Like,
That's when
and
you started to feel it finally. You're like, "I've been
yeah,
inviting her and being a
yeah.
good supportive friend," and then you realize, "Wait a minute, why has she not ever put me in these positions as
And
well?"
like forget about the whole thing for my client or whatever, but just like for me, like to do
Yeah.
something fun, like knowing I was like a fan, it could have been fun. I mean, I took her
Mhm.
whatever.
Did she
So
work in the same, like, you're in publicity, so there's a certain way that your job works. Was it a
mhm.
similar career path for the friend?
No, she did like production, video production.
Mm,
So we did two completely different things. So it's not I could have never like stolen a job from her. We didn't
yeah.
work, we didn't do the
Who's the
same
best
thing.
publicist? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we weren't even in the same industry. We didn't do the
Did you
same
have the same
things.
name? What's the competition? Was it Kelly with an IE and Kelly with a Y? What
No,
what's with her?
I honestly don't know what
Or him?
I don't know what the competition was other than the spotlight,
Mhm,
because the company that I worked for at the time was people always thought was cool. So
mhm.
maybe it was that like stealing the attention away
You're good, by
because
the
people
way.
wanted to
You're
talk
you're
about
good.
that.
You're good, by the way. I said, "Oh, something, something," well, competitive with her or him to try to get like
Oh
a
yeah.
little to get a nugget as to, but I guess we'll never know, but somebody did my
So,
friend wrong.
but whatever. I show up at the show, and we're in our seats, and my friend comes over and is like, "Oh my god, hey, nice to see you," whatever. And I'm with all of these people, and I don't introduce them, because what for?
Mhm.
She never wanted me to be there anyway. So then I guess like she comes looking for me, and Randy's assistant had come and got us and took us backstage, so we weren't in our seats. And she was like looking all over and like texting me like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm backstage," and I'm talking with the host of the show was Mario Lopez. So we're back
Mhm.
there talking, and I had a funny story with him. That's for another time. But we're like all standing there
I don't
talking.
find him my favorite in terms of talent. I'll just go from that.
No, well, okay, sidebar. So at this show, he was hosting the show, and he
Mhm.
was in such a bad mood.
Mhm.
Clearly in such a bad mood. Like between camera takes, he just had a scowl on his face. He was just kind of being a dick, for lack of
Mhm.
a better way. Like you could see it on his face, and we were laughing. Like this dude is hating his life right now. And but then the camera comes on, and he's camera ready with big old
Mhm.
smile, all the stuff, right? So
Yeah.
when we're all backstage, I went over to him and I was like, are you having a rough time out there?" And he just
Oh.
looked at me like, and he's just
Yeah.
busted out laughing. And he's like, "Can you tell?" And I was like, "Dude, you need to tone it down."
Yeah.
And he was just having a bad day. And we like talked it out, and it was really funny. And he's actually a really cool,
Oh,
funny
good.
person. He actually really is. Because
Yeah.
he was like, "I can't believe you're just going to call me out like that." And I was like, "Dude, it was rough watching you." We were like, "Whoa, what is going on?" And it was just kind of a funny thing. Well, in the midst of all that happening, my friend comes over and is like, standing on the outskirts, because we're all talking. I don't invite her in there. This is her space. She should already be in there, right? That's what she was trying to keep me away from.
Oh, but you're
So
getting the
who
you're
am
getting the
I
shine
to?
naturally.
And I just did it by myself.
Oh, you're such a you are threatening Kelly by
And
just
but I
being.
didn't, just being alive.
Oh, see, okay, well then why do we
Yeah.
get along? Because in that case,
Hmm.
wouldn't I feel the same? But I feel like that's my friend. I'm so proud of. Like I love
Right.
all of it. As a good friend, you are actually more like, oh look at, go ahead. You're more
Yeah.
supportive. You're
Yeah.
saying that this friend not only didn't eat, like in
Hmm.
terms of you invite her to your event and she
Hmm.
on an equal level did not to
No,
you,
not
but
one,
you
not
felt.
once.
How did you feel that there was a uncomfortability on their side? How did you feel that? Was it a
Because
sentence? Was it a standoffish
Well,
standoff?
because it was like she was trying to cut, because then, but I walked out of the circle and went over to talk to her. I did not include her in, and that was on purpose,
Mhm.
because I'm not gonna. do that anymore, because why should I? It's not
Mhm.
reciprocated. And in this industry, that's what it is. So why should, this is your boss? You should have an in with this person. I shouldn't have to. But here's how Randy Jackson just dug it in a little deeper and doesn't even know it. So he's trying to talk to me. He's asking, but I'm talking to her. So he's like calling my name. And I turned around and he kind of like walks over and is like, "Oh, did you hear what I said? You know, whatever." And then he kind of looks at her like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, hey, this is so, you know, y'all work together." And he's like, "Oh, right, right, right." And then like turns around and then we just go back in and she's just kind of left out.
Yeah. But you didn't
And
do
I
anything.
didn't do anything. I just didn't bring her in because why would I? She did not
Yeah.
want me there. Like, this is like, she made it this way because
Mm.
she, as just being, I didn't do anything. I happened to meet him on my own and made my own relationship, and I made a friend.
Mhm.
She works with him every day, didn't
Mm.
do the same. Not my problem. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But I didn't intentionally, you know, go out to exclude her the
Mhm.
way that she would intentionally exclude me, but invite everybody else from our friend circle and just purposely leave me out.
Mm.
So it was just kind of a crappy thing. So am I the bad friend because I didn't bring her into it when I could have?
Well, you probably
Should I
were
still? I
you
mean, should
probably
I
were
still
too
have done that?
um I mean, you probably got caught off guard that you're like, "Wait a minute, like, this is not a friendship that's reciprocated." And so maybe you just felt how you felt in the moment. I
Oh
don't
yeah, no, I
uh,
totally did it all on purpose. Like all of it. Yes. I did because I did feel that way. And I did intentionally ignore her. I did intentionally walk out of the circle instead of bringing her into the circle because
mhm,
I had already done that. I had already taken her to way bigger things than backstage at an MTV show.
mhm,
You know, I had already, and I would introduce them to everybody. Like, I just didn't care like that. I
mhm,
never, I was just literally the more the merrier. I'm not going to hold, and I'm just not that kind of person.
yeah,
And so so I felt it really hurt my feelings when I found out that I was the only one that was always excluded, and we were supposed to be, I mean, we went on trips together. We were together every other weekend. Like, we were friends.
yeah.
But I guess we weren't.
So is this the time we both correspond with those old friends right now? Should I reach out and you reach out?
No.
It sounds like mine, I'm a little bit more like, "Oh, well, that
Mhm.
no biggie, I should just reach out."
Yeah.
Yours sounds a little bit more like it was a little
Well, I mean,
much.
I just don't feel like we were actually friends, so what's the point? Like, we're
Mhm.
not friends.
Yeah.
And there was a whole, and that wasn't even like the end of our friendship. There was a whole lot of other things that happened after that
But
with
that's when you knew.
that same group, but that's when I started to realize that these people weren't actually my friends. It was
Mhm.
more like a space filler.
Do you feel like that happens a lot in a job like working as a publicist and
It
publicity?
could. It could.
It's something to watch out for maybe? Maybe?
Yeah. And it's, you know, but I'm just saying, like, thank you, Randy Jackson. You just really made me look like the big deal that I needed to look like in those moments
Yeah.
because of people just doing me shitty. And
Yeah.
so I will forever appreciate him. And he didn't even know he was doing anything. He was just being his genuine, friendly self.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just worked out in my favor. And I will always appreciate him for that.
Well, he's
But
probably pretty great because, he is not just, American Idol was more like a visible thing, but
yeah.
like, he was a musician. So you just
Yeah.
have a natural sense of how to treat people sometimes,
Mm.
You
He's
you
just a
won't
cool dude.
yeah, you won't gain success in anything when you don't treat people well. So
Right.
it makes sense in that regard. But this darn friend, oh
So it was
gosh.
just kind of like I was getting all of that kind of energy from so many places, and it was such a struggle. It was because that's, I mean, I have so many crazy stories with friends that are similar in that regard about wanting something that someone else has in weird ways
Mm,
that
mm,
don't necessarily make sense. And I guess just because I don't understand that because I've never really been that way. I can understand being envious in a way that's like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I wish I could do something like
yeah.
that, and appreciating what somebody else is doing, but not
Like
to
a
the
like a
detriment
yeah.
that I want to take them down or I want
Like
to
a little
hold
bit of
them
a
back.
a little bit of a jealous feeling, like, oh, I wish I also could, but I'm so proud of my friend.
Yeah.
Not like a how, how come.
Why not
Yeah,
me?
yeah, maybe
You
that
know,
person
like,
hasn't really achieved a lot, so maybe it just looks too easy, like, wow, how does she always achieve, and that really could have
I don't know.
created that. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I will never know. And it whatever, it doesn't matter. But it's just very interesting because I'm human. Of course, I get jealous, like all the things, but it's like you go through the emotions and you step back and you look and you're like, wow, it just means I need to step my game up with whatever I'm doing so I can achieve the things that I want to that are not necessarily that,
Mhm,
but are in like in that level for me and what my dreams are. Like that's the way my mind works, is just trying my best to not be like what ugly about anything, and just really trying to be a cheerleader and trying to, even when it's hard, even when those years that I was super jaded, and because I had so much of that kind of negativity around
mhm,
me all the time, that it really turned me into a big old bitch. And
mm,
it really did. It really did. I started treating people the same ways, and it was ugly. And I hate that about that time in my life, because I just was spewing out all the negativity that I was getting. And
mhm,
it was not a good thing. And
yeah,
I look back on it now, and the only regrets I'll ever have is just the way I reacted to things,
mhm.
not things that happened, if that makes any sense.
It
But
makes sense, and you're such a better storyteller than me. Come to think of it, I'm like, did any of that actually did that happen? Am I do I remember it correctly? Like, you know, we're we're not we're well over 35 years old, and so I'm like, do I remember it all clearly?
my friends I needed for support, I didn't need that.
Yeah,
So I just
yeah.
don't know how to pick them, I guess. I don't know.
No, I mean, you have good friends. I
I
mean,
do. I do
you
have some
just
really good friends. Yeah.
it's just throughout, like I said, we met at our early 20s.
Yeah.
We're gonna have experiences where some people weren't necessarily like a good friend long term, but they just served a
Yeah.
quick purpose and really weren't even meant to be necessarily a friend to begin with. And that's
Yeah.
just all that is. Like, it's
No,
a little bit
totally.
of
Yeah.
trial and error when it comes to that. But I'm just beyond thankful we got this great episode in, and it's brought to you
Mhm.
by Viridian Row. And I'm
Yes.
grateful for the times since 2003 when we first started working together to
Mhm.
now, that like there's moments that are, this year we were so close, and then another year we hadn't seen each other as much, not in a bad way.
No,
I'm
yeah.
so thankful of that. And yeah, so that's it.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
If you want to hear more torturous friend stories, follow us at difficultpodcasters.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, do all the stuff. Check out Ronnie's pages and Patreon and all the good stuff, because we've got lots of really fun stories. So make sure to tune in. And I always want to hear your stories too. And tell me, was I the bad friend? Did I deserve that? Or what do you think?
All right, Kelly, thank you for your time. All right, we'll
Bye.
talk.